कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जयो राधा गोपी जन वल्लभ राधा गोपी जन वल्लभ श्रीरा जयो निताय पतित पावन गौर हरि जयो निताय पावन गौर हरि जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। हरे कृष्णा। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवी सरस्वती व्यासं ततो जयामुदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नमो पंकजनाभाय नमो पंकजमालिने नमो पंकजनेत्राय नमस्ते पंकजाग्रहे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 29, Text 45. सोनन्तो नन्तकराकालो अनादिरादिकृतव्ययः जनं जनेन जनयन् मारयन् मृत्यु नान्तकम्। सोनन्तो नन्तकराकालो अनादिरादिकृतव्ययः जनं जनेन जनयन् मारयन् मृत्यु नान्तकम्। सोनन्तो नन्तकराकालो अनादिरादिकृतव्ययः जनं जनेन जनयन् मारयन् मृत्यु नान्तकम्। Reading synonyms. Saha, that. Anantaha, endless. Antakaraha, destroyer. Kala, time. Anadi, without beginning. Adi, Adikrit, the creator. Avyayaha, not liable to change. Janam, persons. Janena, by persons. Janayan, creating. Marayan, destroying. Mrityuna, by death. Antakam, the Lord of death. The translation of this verse: the eternal time factor has no beginning and no end. It is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the marker of the criminal world. The maker of the criminal world. It brings about the end of the phenomenal world. It carries on the work of creation by bringing one individual into existence from another. And likewise, it dissolves the universe by destroying even the Lord of Death, that is Yamaraja. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Purport: by the influence of eternal time, which is a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The father begets a son, and the father dies by the influence of cruel death. But by time's influence, even the Lord of cruel death is killed. In other words, all the demigods within the material world are temporary, like ourselves. Our life lasts for 100 years at the most. And similarly, although their lives may last for millions and millions of years, the demigods are not eternal. No one can live within this material world eternally. The phenomenal world is created, maintained, and destroyed by the finger signal of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, a devotee does not desire anything in this material world. A devotee desires only to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This servitude exists eternally. The Lord exists eternally. His servitor exists eternally. And the service exists eternally. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the third canto, 29th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Explanation of Devotional Service by Lord Kapila. So this is the last verse of 29th chapter of third canto. Before starting, I would begin with invocation prayer. I'm not qualified to give Bhagavatam class. I'm praying for all of your mercy, all of your blessings, so that I can glorify Srimad Bhagavatam. And as a humble service mode, I'm trying to serve temple authority and devotees of Radha Gopijana Vallabha. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpataro Vescha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yatkripa tamaham vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam. Translation of this verse: the eternal time factor has no beginning and no end. So time, kala, is considered as eternal. It has no beginning, no end. And it is a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even in Bhagavad Gita we saw Krishna mentioned that kalos, me. So Kala Asmi. So Krishna mentions himself as a Kala. So the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is also eternal. So it is the maker of this criminal world. So this material world it is influence of Kala, but the spiritual world doesn't have influence of the Kala. It brings about the end of the phenomenal world. It carries on the work of creation by bringing one individual into existence from another. And likewise, it dissolves the universe by destroying even the Lord of Death, Yamaraja. So, Lord of Death, Yamaraja is also subjected to influence of time. So, whoever in this material world, it considered from, it may be from Brahma or to the small, the ant, everyone is subjected to the influence of time. The Lord of Death, Yamaraja. Oh, sorry, even the destroying, who dissolves the universe by destroying, even the Lord of Death, Yamaraja, is also subject to the influence of time. In the Bhagavad Gita, there are total 5 subject matters discussed. Out of that, Kala is also one of them. So we all know the Ishvara is the first one of the subject matter. So Krishna is the supreme controller. That's Ishvara. So there are 4 eternal factors and 1 it is not eternal. So karma is not eternal. The Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Kala. These are all eternal. Out of 5 subject matters, 4 are eternal. Even though material nature, it is sometimes it will come into manifests and sometimes it is not, but still it is considered as eternal. As per the introduction of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada mentioned, Kala is also Prakriti is also eternal. According to Vaishnava philosophy, the manifestation of the world is not accepted as false. So some other theory, they may mention that Brahma Satya, Jagat Mithya, but that Jagat Mithya, Vaishnava philosophy doesn't consider as Jagat as a Mithya. So even the world is accepted as false, it is a temporary, it is a temporary, but it is a real, it is a temporary, that's what. For example, the cloud moves across the sky, or the coming of when the rain season is there, when it rains, the grains are nourished. As soon as the rain season is over, the cloud is gone away. All the crops will be, which were nourished, it will be dried up when there is no rain. Similarly, this material manifestation, it takes place at a certain interval, it stays for a while, then it disappears. But this cycle is working eternally. Since this cycle is eternally continuing, so we call this Prakriti is also eternal. But it is not false. It is a temporary. Lord refers to this Prakriti, this material nature, is a separated energy of the Lord. So it's a Binna Prakritir Ashtada. And similarly, the living entities also, it's the energy of the Supreme Lord. So Apareyam itastu anya. So first he mentions about the para prakriti. First he mentions about apara prakriti. That is a bhumira panalo vayu kammano buddhirevacha. So earth, water, fire, air, intelligence, mind, falsiku. These are all the inferior energy. So apareyam. So besides this apara prakriti, there is a para prakriti. That is a jiva bhuta mahabaho. So all the living entities. That is the spirit soul. So it is the energy of the Lord. So material energy is the separated energy of the Lord. Similarly, the living entities is the energy of the Lord. Although they are not separated, but eternally they are related. So Ishvara, Kala, Prakriti, we can consider it as eternal. Ishvara, Jiva, Kala, Prakriti, we can consider it as eternal. And karma is, it's not eternal. So all the living entity, material nature and time, they are interrelated. However, the karma is, it's not eternal. So the effects of karma it may be very old. It looks like eternal, like from so many birth after birth, our karma, the reaction of karma is like, it is, we are getting the reactions. It looks like eternal, but it is not. We are suffering or enjoying due to the results of our activities from time immemorial. But we can change the results of our karma, change the results of our activity. This depends on the perfection of our knowledge. We are engaged in various activities. So undoubtedly, we don't know what sort of activities we are doing. Sometimes unknowingly we commit so many mistakes, so many sinful reactions. But we should adopt a method to get relief from these actions and reactions. All these activities means the reactions, means to get rid of all these reactions. That's what explained in Bhagavad Gita. So the devotional service, when we do the devotional service, it will give the relief from both karma, the pious activity, the good karma and bad karma. It will free us from both bad and good reactions. So both good reaction and bad reaction, it makes us bind. So by practicing the bhakti, which is called as akarma, that only will help us to the liberation or to attain the supreme goal. Throughout Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentions us to perform devotional service. And he also gives us the glimpse of spiritual world. He never mentions us to continue our business here and stay here peacefully. He never mentioned. Every time he mentions us, come to me. So many verses tells. He mentions about spiritual world, and he mentions that material world is dukkha alayam. So our duty is our business is to finish this duty and go back to Godhead by performing bhakti. That's what we can understand from Bhagavad Gita. So in this chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is the devotional service activities. The chapter name is related to the devotional service. Explanation of devotional service by Lord Kapila. That is the chapter name. In this this is the last verse of the chapter. So here the last verse explains about the time factor. So we are all subject to the time factor that everyone knows, but this time factor is the representative of time factor itself is the energy of God, or we can consider time factor itself is the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna sees the universal form of Krishna. There he saw that all the son of Dhritarashtra, along with their king, Bhishma, Drona, Karna, everyone, all the chief soldiers, everyone is rushing towards the fearful mouth of the universal form. And he saw that he gives explanation that how the rivers flow with the full force into the ocean. All these great warriors, everyone, they are entering into the blazing mouth of the universal form of the Lord. So he can see the future in the universal form. That he mentioned that how the moth is attracted to the fire, like that everyone is getting destroyed in the blazing fire of that the universal form. So by seeing this, Arjuna, he asks Supreme Lord that I see you're devouring this form. All people are devouring from all sides with your mouth, with a flaming, crushing towards the teeth of the universal form, covering all the universe with your effulgence. You are manifesting this horrible, the terrible scorching rays in this form. Please tell me, who are you? And I offer my obeisances to you. Please be gracious to me. I want to know more about you. I don't know what is your mission. That's what Arjuna requests to the Lord. Then Krishna mentions in the 32 verse of the 11th chapter. He mentions that Kalosmi Lokakshayakrat Pravraddo. So he mentions Kalosmi there. So I am the time I am the great destroyer of the world, and I have come here to destroy all the people. With the exception of a few Pandavas, all the soldiers here on the both sides will be destroyed. So here, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, he tells directly that Kalosmi, time I am, the great destroyer of the world. So everyone in this material world is subjected to influence of the time. So at birth, as we growing, we are all continuously influenced by the time. So if we are, for example, if we are 40 years old, so we are 40 years influenced by the time. So that's what the old age. It is the influence of the time. So including demigods, everyone is subjected to the influence of time. All the demigods within the material world are temporary, like how we are also temporary. Even demigods also temporary. Even though we look like they live eternally, their lives last for like so many years, but demigods are also not eternal. Whatever in this material world, it has expiry date. It may be the material, the things, or maybe the living beings, or maybe the demigods. Even demigods are also within these 14 planetary systems. Everyone is subjected to the influence of time, and nobody is eternal in the material world. No one can live within this material world eternally. We saw that even Brahma, who is a secondary creator, he is also subject to influence of time. Brahma's age is also 100 years, as per Bhagavad Gita in one of the sloka of 8th chapter. Sahasra yuga paryantam aharyat brahmano vidu ratrim yuga sahasrantam teho ratra vido janaha. So there, if you see by human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together, which forms the duration of Brahma's one day, and 1,000 yuga cycle, that is Brahma's one night. So even though it looks like Brahma lives eternally, but Brahma is also subject to influence of time. So Brahma lives for, as per the purport of Bhagavad Gita, it's mentioned that 300 trillion and 40 billion earth years, Brahma's lifetime. That's what, 100 years lifetime. So Brahma's one day is 1,000 yuga cycles of. So Kali Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, Satya Yuga. This 4 yuga cycles, 1,000 times when it repeats, that is one day of Brahma. So one Kali Yuga is 4,32,000 years. Multiplied by 2 is the duration of Dwapara Yuga. That is 12,96,000 years. Then the Kali Yuga's time multiplied by 3 is Treta Yuga. That is 4,32,000 years multiplied by 3 is 12,96,000. This is the duration of Treta Yuga. Then the Satya Yuga's duration is Kali Yuga's duration multiplied by 4 times is Satya Yuga. That is 4,32,000 multiplied by 4 is equal to 17,28,000 years. This is Satya Yuga. So if we add all this duration, Satya plus Dwapara plus Treta plus Kali Yuga, that is repeating 1,000 times. That is Brahma's one day. Then that is again repeating in the night. That is Brahma's night. So after that, like this 100 years Brahma lives, then Brahma is also, then there will be next Brahma will be there. So that means as per the purport, even demigods also subject to influence of time. But only the who is not subject to the influence of time only. The supreme absolute truth is not subjected to influence of time. Even in spiritual world, there is no time. Time factor doesn't work in spiritual world. Absolute truth is eternal. In Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, 9th chapter, text 33, there Supreme Lord instructs Brahma that ham evasa evagre na anyat yat sat asat param. So Supreme Lord told Brahma, it is I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation when there was nothing but myself exist. So, and nor was there the material nature, which is the cause of this creation. And that which you see now is also I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And after annihilation, what remains will also be I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That means aham evasam evagre. Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, always exists. Who exists before the creation, who exists and maintains it. And after annihilation also, he exists. So absolute truth is not subject to the eternal time factor. And Krishna mentioned that in many places of Bhagavad Gita also, although I am unborn, my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium by my original transcendental form. Ajo apisam amvyayatma bhutanam ishwaropi san. Tatutim swam adhishtaya sambhavami atma maya. Even though I am unborn, I'll appear in each millennium in my original transcendental form. It looks like Krishna is Aja. Means Krishna is Aja only, but still we celebrate Krishna's Janmashtami. So unborn is born. That is, in every millennium he appears. In one day of Brahma he appears in his original form. All other time is in the Vishnu's incarnations will appear. So this, as per the purport of this verse, the phenomenal world is created, maintained and destroyed by the finger signal of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, devotee does not desire anything in this material world. That's what it is mentioned. So devotees are it's talking about pure devotees. They are totally convinced there is a supreme, the spiritual world, which is above this, which is very transcendental, and therefore our duty is to, as per the Bhagavad Gita, so our duty is to go back to Godhead. But that process is, of course, it is very, even though it's straight devotional service, we are all the sadhaka. It takes, maybe for me, it takes so many birth times to achieve that goal. So devotees are convinced that there is a spiritual world. Krishna directly tells in Bhagavad Gita many times, many places about the material world, about the spiritual world. In 20th verse of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna told that paras tasmatu bhavonyo avyakto avyakta sanatanaha yasa sarveshu bhuteshu natsyastu na vinashriti. When all this, when he described about the Brahma's lifetime, then he told that after 100 years, even Brahma will also subjected to the death. But, and whatever in this material world, everything will be annihilated. But there is one supreme nature which will not annihilate. Even though this annihilation, it happens, that spiritual world is not affected with this annihilation. So that is what paras tasmat bhavo anyo. That is avyakta saratana. That is not manifested. That's there is another unmanifest nature which is eternal. So Krishna is talking about spiritual world in 20th verse of 8th chapter. So that that world is transcendental to this, when we compare to the material world, which is manifested and unmanifested. But spiritual world is ever existing. It is a supreme and is never annihilated. when all this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. So spiritual world is not subject to the time factor. But how? And in the very next verse, Krishna mentioned, after he explained about the spiritual world, the supreme destination, that place from which having attained it, one never returns, that is my supreme abode. So but it is attainable by unalloyed devotional service. So in 8.22, Krishna mentioned how to attain that supreme abode. Purushasa parapartha bhaktya labhyastva ananya. So ananya bhakti. So through unalloyed devotional service, only we can attain that spiritual, the supreme abode. Even this chapter also, this chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, 29th chapter of 3rd canto, talks about the devotional service, pure devotional service at the middle section. So therefore, devotees does not desire anything in this material world. So pure devotees does not desire anything in this material world. Srila Prabhupada mentioned in the purport of this 45th verse. A devotee desires only to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he is totally convinced that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. So that's why he always finds the peace formula by serving Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhoktaram yadya tapasa sarvaloka maheshwaram suridam sarvabhutanam jnatva mam shanti vrichyati. So devotees of the Lord, they know that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. So they are free from the miseries. All other means who are not pure devotees, they are trying to enjoy whatever, even though performing devotional service, even though performing material activities, they're trying to enjoy themselves. When they totally come to the pure bhakti stage, they will convince that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. So that's what so in this purport, it ends like, devotee does not desire anything in this material world. Devotee desires only to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the service is eternal. That's what it is mentioned. Does servitude exist eternally? The Lord exists eternally. His servitor exists eternally. And the service exists eternally. That was the last sentence of purport. So there that is the end of the this verse. I'll just give you the quick summary of this entire chapter, since this is the last verse. In the verse 1 to 6, Mother Dehuti asks Lord Kapila Dev for the further explanation about devotional service. She asks more about devotional service. She asks about the material nature, about time, and about cycle of birth and death. From text 7 to 20, Lord Kapila Dev describes various classes of bhakti. Bhakti within 3 modes. We saw in the beginning verses of this chapter. Devotional service executed by different modes of nature. So a person who is envious, who is proud, who is violent, who is angry, and who is a separatist, in this mode, if we execute devotional service, it is considered in the mode of darkness. Then he further explains, one who worships deities in the temple with a motive of material enjoyment, fame, opulence, and so this type of devotion is considered as a mode of passion. Further, he explains, when a devotee worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead and offers the results of his activities in order to free himself from the fruitive activities, this devotion is in the mode of goodness. Then he further explains characteristics of pure bhakti, which is beyond 3 modes. So just as the water of the Ganges flows naturally down towards the ocean, such devotional ecstasy uninterrupted by any material condition, flows towards the Supreme Lord. So pure devotional service is uninterrupted, unmotivated. This manifestation of unadulterated devotional service exhibited, it is only exhibited when one's mind is pure, when mind is at once attracted to hearing the transcendental name and qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So then he further explained the characteristics of pure bhakti. Means by attaining this pure bhakti, one can overcome the influence of the three modes of devotional service. So pure bhakti is beyond the three modes. We already heard in Bhagavad Gita that Brahman platform, it is beyond the three modes. So how to attain that platform? That is also bhakti. Now we are doing some kind of bhakti. It is mixed of modes. By doing this continuously, without failing in any circumstances, uninterrupted, unmotivated, we will progress towards the pure bhakti stage. So sagunam samatitaita brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Mamcha yo avyabhicharena bhakti. Through avyabhicharena bhakti means continuously uninterrupted, unallowed devotional service. That will lead us to the platform of Brahman. So next he mentioned about the angas of bhakti for the purification of mind. A devotee must execute this prescribed duty, which are glorious without material profit, without violence. One should regularly perform one's devotional activities. So this should be the regular basis. The devotee should regularly see the deities in the temple, he mentioned further, meditates on lotus feet and offer worshipable paraphernalia, prayers. Then further he explains, he should see in the spirit of renunciation from the mode of goodness, he see every living entity as a spiritual. So Paramatma in every living entity, we have to see that comes in the pure stage. The pure devotee should execute devotional service by giving the greatest respect to the spiritual master and acharya. So in the middle section of this chapter, he explains how do we perform this pure bhakti. The pure devotion should execute, the devotee should execute devotional service by giving the greatest respect to the spiritual master and acharyas. He should be compassionate to the poor and make friendship with the persons who are equal to him, but all his activities should be executed under the regulation and with control of the senses. He further explains, devotee should always try to hear about spiritual topics. He should always utilize his time in chanting the holy name of the Lord. His behavior should always be straightforward and simple, and although he is not envious but friendly, he should be friendly to everyone. So practice of this anga, this raises to the pure bhakti. When one is fully qualified with these transcendental attributes and his consciousness is thus completely purified, he is immediately attracted simply by hearing the Harinam, simply by hearing the name of the Lord and transcendental quality. So spontaneous attachment will be developed in that stage. How the air is carrying the aroma, our senses the nose catches it immediately. Like that, one who constantly engages in service in Krishna consciousness, he can feel the presence of super soul everywhere, equally present in all living beings. So when we come to that stage, we will realize the super soul in every living beings. And further he mentions towards and offenses and obstacles in bhakti. So if one neglects or disregards this Paramatma present in all jiva, and if he hates or criticizes others, his deity worship it's just like an imitation. So one who offers respect to Lord, but if he is envious to the other living beings or other people, other devotees, he is considered as a separatist. He never attains peace of mind because of his inimical behavior towards the other living entities. Even if we worship with proper rituals and paraphernalia, a person who is ignorant of presence of super soul in all living entities, he never pleases Lord by his deity worship. So these are all offenses and obstacles in the bhakti. That's what he mentioned. And in the next around verse 28 to 36, he mentions about the, like he mentioned in to see Paramatma in every living beings. But there are different gradation of jivas. If you see, some are immovable, like the plant and trees, it is not movable, immovable. Some living living entities are there immovable, and some entities with the some life and terms with and developed consciousness, and some with sense perception. And next, better than that is a who has a touch sensation, and better than that who has a taste sense, and better than that who has a sense of smell. He further explains the grade of the jivas, like better than who developed a sense is the better who developed hearing sense. Better than that is who distinguish the forms. Better than that is who the living entities who has a set of teeth. Better than that who has set of leg. And better than that is who has 4 legs, the animals. And better than that is a human beings. And among human beings, again further gradation is there. So who there is people who doesn't follow varnashrama, non-varnashrama category, and better than them is who follows varnashrama category, and better than them is the brahmanas, and better than the brahmana is who knows the Vedas, and better than that brahmana who is know the meaning of Veda is the brahmana who helps others to resolve their doubts. And better than that is brahmana who also follows his duty. Our real duty is Jiver Sarupa Krishnera Nityadas, the connection between Atma and Paramatma. Who follows that and who follows the devotional service and attains liberation, he is a better. And better than that is a pure devotee who neglects even the liberation, and he considers pure devotee is the greatest than all. So these are all different levels of gradation gave here. So further he mentioned that that brahmana who, even though they're better because they know the Vedic knowledge and all, they dispels the doubts, but better than them is a devotee. Like he mentioned in one of the verses, therefore I do not find a great person than he who has no interest outside of mine, and who therefore engages and dedicates all his activities and his life, everything unto me without cessation. In text 33, our Lord mentioned the better than all these jivas is the one who dedicated his life to the service of the Lord. Such a perfect devotee offers respect to every living entity because he is under the firm conviction that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has entered the body of every living entity as the super soul and controlling everyone. So even though there are different grades of jivas are there, the pure devotee, he treats everyone equally because he has that strong conviction that super soul lives in all living beings. And in the last section, the time factor. From 37 to 45 verse, it is mentioned about the time factors and the material nature. So the time factor who causes the transformation of the various material manifestation. So these are all various different gradation. So the time factor is the cause of that. Means causes the transformation of these different grades of jivas, transformation of the various material manifestations. It is another feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anyone who does not know that time is the same Supreme Personality, he is afraid of the time factor. It is mentioned in the last section. So Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the enjoyer of all sacrifices, is the time factor and the master of all masters. He enters everyone's heart. He is the support of everyone, and he causes every being to be annihilated by another. So in the last today's verse, we saw that this time factor, even though like everyone in this material world is subject to the time factor. The eternal time factor has no beginning and no end, but it creates beginning and end to this material world. It is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It brings out the end of the phenomenal world. It carries on the work of creation by bringing the individual into existence and dissolves and destroy even the Lord of Death, Yamaraja. So time factor is a cause of creation, maintenance, and destruction. That is the last verse of 29th chapter. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Grantaraj Bhagavatam ki jai, all the devotees ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Please forgive me. This is just my service towards Srimad Bhagavatam and the devotees and temple authority. Thank you very much. Please forgive me. I'm not qualified to take any question answers because I myself have so many questions. If there are any questions, you can contact temple authority. And there is an exact verse repeated in Canto 4, chapter 11, text 19. Let me share the screen. Because the same verse is repeated again. So another devotee will be definitely taking this verse. So that time you can ask the questions. Let me share the 4. See, this is the sloka 19th of 11th chapter from 4th canto. Sonanto nantakara kalo anadir adikrad avyayaha janam janena janayam marayan mrityunantakam. Same verse again repeated here. So if you see the Sanskrit is same. Sonanto nantakara kalo anadir adikrad avyayaha janam janena janayam marayam mrityunantakam. So same verse will be repeated again. During that time, you can ask the questions. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Very commanding. Thank you. I hope you will give more Bhagavatam classes.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Very nice class, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hope to see more classes. Yes.
Mataji, you're just trying to say that this verse is repeated. So ask questions then. That we will ask questions that time. But such a beautiful summary you gave, Mataji, for the whole chapter. It was so nice and so thoughtful of you to cover the whole chapter in the end of the class. And it was a very, very, very nice class, Mataji. I'm so happy to hear from you. And also, so many nice points you mentioned, Mataji, especially summarizing that how to, what actually is eternal and how to do pure devotional service. That was very nice. And the point that you mentioned in the middle of your class, somebody is 40 years old or how many years old, that many years we have been under the influence of time. That was a very nice point, Mataji. As everyone said, please keep giving more classes, Mataji. We would love to hear from you. Hare Krishna.
Mataji, please forgive me. The baby, when it walks, when it is learning to walk, it falls many times. I'm very fallen and I always make so many mistakes even while explaining. I might have chosen wrong words.
No
please
mistakes, Mataji. No mistakes. It was a very, very nice class. Wonderfully prepared and wonderfully rendered. Wonderful class. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. We're ending the meeting. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Krishna. Samayata Bhakta ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
So much, Mataji. Very much enlightening class, Mataji. Thank you so much. Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Dandavat pranam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Dandavat pranam.
Dandavat pranam. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Very nice class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you, Dandavat.